Hey everybody, I actually thought I was going to be able to keep my channel kind of really easy and mellow for a good amount of time. A lot of people don't know I don't want to say the thinker side of me, but I almost want to say that there's a depth to me that I really don't care to discuss with a lot of people because a lot of people just don't think that way. But there's something that really recently kind of got me because I had somebody online do some great support of my father's video. By the way, he does have his new channel under New or Night. I'll link it in this video. But it was funny because I guess I'm going to assume a young black guy, a young African American guy, put a post up that said, let me read it exactly as he put it. Damn, this nigga kicking mad knowledge. Okay. I'm going to tell you why this offends me. First of all, let me start by saying, because I'm sure there are going to be a ton of white folks that come on and think that they're going to use the word nigger and I'm going to be offended. I'm not. This sounds really bad, but the reality is the way that the word has been used, and I know people always try to take a word and you figure you're going to change the definition of the word. And it's funny because first thing I figured I would do would be to pull it up in a dictionary that I've had since the 90s. As you can see, it's beat up. It's the old Webster's, but the funny thing is, it doesn't include the word nigger in it. It has nagard or nagardly in it, but it doesn't even include the word nigger, which I don't know how I feel about that. But anyway, let me start by saying this because I know a lot of black folks that use the word and they think it's okay because it's almost like if you use the word bitch, for example, you can change the meaning of the word. First of all, the word bitch means female dog. Y'all can alter it however you want. If you look at most like British channels, they'll use it a lot just for the simple fact that that's the actual definition of the word. Now, nigger to me, again, it's more offensive when black folks use it because it tells me you don't know your history. You have no understanding of where you came from, who you are, what your ancestors, and not even long 400 times like people try to say 400 years ago ancestors went through. You're generally probably talking about, depending on your age, your grandparents or your great-grandparents. So you really haven't even gone that far back into your family history to learn the uses of this word. And I hate to say it, but in this culture, I really feel like there's no word that has that much power. Now, let me tell you to me why I feel like that word has power. Because a group of people found it okay to not only kill and to torture, but to treat your ancestors less than animals. You got to think about it. When they wanted turkey or ham or beef, they killed an animal, and that was the purpose of killing the animal. What I would strongly suggest that people do, if nothing more, go look up the book Without Sanctuary. Do you understand that your ancestors were not only hung from trees, they were tied a noose around their neck, somebody would step on their head and choke them, or how about hang a woman from a tree while she's pregnant, cut the baby out of her stomach and stomp on the baby. They're hard images to deal with because I've always told I'm kind of an empath, and it's funny because my father had the book Without Sanctuary, and as much as I hated that book, my father's a good guy. He's like a professor and a teacher by nature, and he shared it with somebody. They never gave the book back. But I'm going to suggest that you guys look up a search for sanctuary because you have to understand that word was made for you to be less than human, for a group of people to give themselves the right to do anything to you because you had absolutely no value. And when I say no value, I mean, yeah, they purchased you as slaves, but they can do whatever with you that they would. And you got to think about it. They didn't treat their furniture, their animals, they didn't treat any object as bad as they treated slaves. And I'm not even going to say that blacks were the first slaves. If you go back in history, you're going to find out there were a lot of groups of slaves. But they even talk about, for example, the Middle Passage and how, for example, you have these ships that they would just throw blacks off, throw Africans off. And you still have sharks that still swim those same passages for the simple fact that it was good eating. hundreds of years ago. So when you use that term and you think, oh, because, well, I changed it from a to an ER, you ignorant fool. Do you understand that if you go down to the South and somebody pronounces something differently, it doesn't change the value or the context of the word. It's the difference of an accent. So I'm trying not to get angry because it really, to me, it's so disrespectful. It's so disrespectful. And I hate to say it, if you was in my face, you would have got a mouthful, because it just says that, A, you're ignorant. And B, you have no knowledge of yourself, because when you use that word, you're really offending yourself, honestly. And I don't know. I try to keep my tone light because I understand some of these topics most people aren't even going to be able to, I don't want to say comprehend, but it's almost going to be like their first introduction to it, which kind of, it gets me. And something is funny, I recently put on Facebook, because me and a friend of mine were talking, the whole idea of Black history. And understanding our history, because I understand there's a lot of us that don't know. For some reason, your parents or grandparents decided it would be better to hide the past from you so that maybe you wouldn't have to deal with the ugliness of it. Guess what? They always say if you don't know where you came from, you don't know who you are, you don't know where you're going. The reality is, if you were, and I consider it a form of neglect, not taught whether it be the good or the bad things, for example, like understanding that the Moors were the first ones to put a university in Europe, which is good history, but also to know some of the violence that occurred to our people, how our people were separated, and actually are. If you look at it, even with welfare now, they're still separated. If a woman is in the house with her children and the father of her children, or a man, she, to my understanding, loses a lot of those benefits. So you're still being separated. All I would suggest is, I mean, you might want to, because unfortunately, your captor in so many ways seems to be more intelligent. Even though I think a lot of times in this country, we don't want to face the things that have happened and that have gone on. We tend to close a blind eye. Like, for example, if you ever watched the movie, what was it? I want to say Rose something. It was basically about the fact that you had a level of blacks that were living better than their counterpart, than the white neighbors, and how they just went through and they killed them. That's not the first time it happened. So you hear songs like, and I can't even think of the lady's name, that basically says, grow up, little boy. She's talking about a man that wants to start his own business, and she's telling him to go get a job. Well, guess why? And this is the thing that gets me, because we don't learn our history. You got to think, as a woman, if you know that your man's going to be killed because he goes out and he betters himself and he comes better than what had originally told him he was worthless, there's a level of violence that occurs. So what do? You start teaching your boys and your children not to step past that invisible line that can actually harm them. So there's a lot, and I guess I could probably spend 30 minutes on this topic, but I have to tell you, it's disappointing. And I know we use the word, it's almost like saying hi nowadays, but it's disappointing for you to take somebody that you might have respect for and you use that term as if it's okay. Learn your history. Start with Without Sanctuary. You can go on from that. I think there was something when it comes to how there were a lot of black folks that were killed for having businesses and doing stuff. I want to say there was something in Oklahoma many years ago. So do your history. Maybe sometimes you just need to sit and listen, and don't open your mouth until you've actually formulated your thoughts. All right, I'm done.